Good afternoon. We're convening the Joint Committees on Transportation and Culture and the Arts and Education on our 3 p.m. agenda here in State Capitol Conference Room 224. We have resolutions on the agenda today. We just ask folks to keep your testimony to no more than 2 minutes to make sure we have time to get through everybody who showed up to the hearing this afternoon. That said, we're going to take testimony from both SCR 117 and SR 98 concurrently. And we'll begin with those 2 resolutions, which urge the Department of Education to collaborate with the Department of Transportation and the County of Hawaii to conduct an inventory of bus stops on Hawaii Island utilized by children to travel to school and develop strategies to improve safety at each location. And we have testimony first from the Department of Education. Good afternoon. There's a lot of people in line behind you, so if you could.
Sorry.
Do we even have bus stops in the big area?
That's the reason for a lot of this resolution.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony. My name is Megan Omura with the Department of Education, and the department stands on our written testimony provided.
Thank you very much. We have testimony from Shelby Pikachu Billionaire with the Ohana Unity Party and Kingdom of the Hawaiian Islands online.
Not on Zoom, Chair.
Thank you. And we have further written testimony from one individual. That's everyone who had signed to testify. Is there anyone wishing to testify who hasn't yet testified on these resos? And seeing none, are there any questions?
Real quick for DOE. What are you folks doing currently about they call bus stops?
So a lot of the routes that were established are based off of student locations. Are the students actually riding the bus? That's kind of up to the families to register them. So that's very important in identifying these students and where they are. Another big, I think, challenge for us is also identifying where they're located. At this time, we are limited in terms of providing service on county roads. A lot of the newer communities, when I say newer, in the last 5 to 10 years, they are privately owned or managed by a HOA. So that makes accessing these areas a little bit challenging because the safety of these roads is a little difficult.
But how many bus stops do you folks have now? The DOE has?
It varies per route.
Yeah, but how many?
I can find out.
So you didn't find out before you got here, too? Because we're going to ask you for questions on this.
Sure. I can find out. I'll get you the number.
So you have no idea, 1, 10, 20, 15?
We have multiple stops on the 40 routes that we provide for the east, and we provide around 72 routes for the west. Each route services multiple areas, so it can range per route.
So are there complaints that you folks don't have enough?
I think it's more of a safety issue because it's not like, on the island of Oahu where we have an actual bus stop with a seat and a sign. A lot of the stops aren't designed like that on the Big Island.
So I guess I'm trying to find out, so is it the intent of the resolution not only to know where these bus stops are, but how to make it more safe?
Yes.
Is that what it is? But if there's no areas that are safe, where are you going to put alternative places?
To develop a strategy to figure out that and if there are possible ways to make it a safe location.
So if you could come testify.
I know.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
Yes.
Vice Chair.
Okay, since we're on Hawaii Island, I think maybe what's important for the committee as well, including for DOE and the Education Committee, is that which ones are more affected? Because not all, as you say, bus stops are equal to the rest of the island. Like I know, like in Puna, probably that's kind of important. And my former district was Waikoloa, but the problem there wasn't the bus stops or areas to drop off, but it was more because of the distance and the capacity. Yeah, so I think maybe just getting historical background on the worst places, rather than put everything in a basket. Maybe that should come to the Committee of Education as well. Like for Hawaii Island, if you have data or collect some information where are pretty much the substantial areas for drop-offs or whatever. But I think this Senator Kanuha's measure is this, improving safety more than the issue of the availability of the buses that have been available. I think we had both.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none. Yep. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for.
That being both resolutions on the agenda, committees would like to move into decision-making. I'm just going to add in the rest of schools. Okay. So chairs having conferred for both SCR 117 and SR 98, we'd like to recommend passing with amendments, adding into the collaboration between DOE and the other stakeholders, collaboration with the Safe Routes to School Advisory Committee, and then making technical amendments. There's no discussion. Vice Chair for the vote.
Okay, thank you. The Committee on Transportation and Culture and the Arts, Chair's recommendation is to pass SCR 117 and SR 98. And with amendments, Chair Lee.
Aye.
Okay, Vice Chair goes aye. Senator Elafante.
Aye.
Senator Kanuha.
Aye.
Senator DeCourt.
Aye.
Measure is adopted, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Same recommendation for Committee on EDU and no discussion. Chair votes aye.
Same recommendation, SCR 117, SR 98. Chair's recommendation for EDU is passed with amendments. Chair Kidani is excused. Acting Chair Kim.
Aye.
Senator Hashimoto. Aye. I vote aye. Senator DeCourt.
Aye.
Chair recommendation is adopted for SCR 117, SR 98.
Thank you. We are adjourned. We're convening the Committee on Transportation and Culture and the Arts on our 3:01 p.m. agenda here in State Capitol Conference Room 224. We have a number of resolutions up on our agenda this afternoon. We'd ask everyone to make sure that your testimony submitted, and we'll be limiting folks to no more than 1 minute to make sure we have time to get to all testifiers. Up first is, and we'll be taking resolutions, both the Senate concurrent resolutions and the Senate resolutions concurrently for testimony. So up first is SCR 196 and SR 176, supporting and encouraging a broader relationship between the state and the Kingdom of Norway. And with testimony, signed up for testimony on these is Michael Older. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. I would like to express my support for this resolution, just because I feel like we can learn a lot from the Kingdom of Norway. They're rated high in both quality of life and their dedication to climate change, and they have an extensive track record with, as I said before, with quality of life, and are ranked one of the highest in the world in terms of individual life satisfaction. That is all I have to say. Thank you for letting me testify.
Thank you very much. That's everyone who signed up to testify. Is there anyone else wishing to testify in this measure this afternoon? Seeing none, are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Let's move on to the next pair of resolutions, SCR 197 and SR 177. And I'll note we had posted a proposed Senate Draft 1 for these, and testifying first on 197. We have submitted testimony when everyone signed up to testify. Seeing no one else in the room to testify on these measures, and no one to ask questions of. If there are no other questions, let's move on to the next set of measures. SCR 195 and SR 175, supporting and encouraging a broader relationship between the state and the Kingdom of Sweden. And testifying first, we have testimony submitted from the Consulate of Sweden, Honolulu, and some individuals. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on these measures? And seeing as there are none, let's move on to the next set of measures. SCR 181 and SR 151, urging DOT to establish a working group on lowering the legal limit of blood alcohol from 0.08 to 0.05. And testifying on 181 and 151, we have the Office of the Governor in support. Also signed up to testify is the Hawaii Public Health Institute online. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, Chair Lee and members of the committee. My name is Rick Collins. I'm with the Hawaii Alcohol Policy Alliance, and we're a project of the Hawaii Public Health Institute. We're here in support of this resolution and just want to thank you, Chair Lee, for introducing this resolution and for the committee for hearing it and considering it. We do ask you to potentially do one amendment to this bill, and that would be, and it's in our written testimony, but it's essentially to add an additional member to the working group that would be any other member at the discretion of the Director of Transportation, just so there's some leeway in terms of his or her ability to bring in experts into that working group as they see fit. I'm here for questions. Thanks so much for allowing me to provide testimony.
Thank you very much. That's everyone who had signed up to testify online or in person. Is there anyone else wishing to testify in these measures? Seeing no one in the room. Sorry? Seeing no one in the room, are there any questions? And seeing none, thank you. That is the last set of measures on this 3:01 p.m. agenda. So why don't we go straight into decision making? At the top of the agenda, we're voting on both the Senate concurrent resolutions and the Senate resolutions together with one vote. Beginning with, at the top of the agenda, SCR 196 and SR 176.
Office of the Governor.
Oh, you know, we'll take a quick recess to let folks come into the room and to get our paperwork in order. Recess. All right, we're reconvening the Committee on Transportation, Culture, and the Arts on our 3:01 p.m. agenda. We're in decision making. Thank you everyone for your patience. Beginning with Senate Concurrent Resolution 196 and Senate Resolution 176. I'd like to recommend passing with amendments, just adding a clause relating to prisons and criminal justice as a potential place of conversation and collaboration. If there's no discussion on those, Vice Chair for the vote.
Chair's recommendation on SCR 196 and SR 176 to pass with amendments, with 5 members present, any voting with reservations, any no votes. Measure is adopted, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Moving on to SCR 197 and SR 177. I'd like to recommend moving this forward with amendments, adopting the amendments based on the proposed draft as it was posted, and making further amendments which include cleaning up and clarifying the recognition of the holidays in the title, as well as the clauses, And we'll also add a provision at the end inviting Canadian leaders and others as may be appropriate to meet with Hawaii leaders to collaborate on shared issues of mutual benefit and concern. So any discussion on this one? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Chair's recommendation on SCR 197 and SR 177 to pass with amendments. Any voting with reservations with 5 members present, any no votes? Hearing none, Vice Chair, measure is adopted.
Thank you. Moving on to SCR 195 and SR 175. Recommendation is to move forward as is. If there's no discussion, Vice Chair.
Chair's recommendation on SCR 195 and SR 175 is to pass unamended with 5 members present. Any voting with reservations, any no votes? Hearing none, measure is adopted. Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Finally, last on our agenda is SCR 181 and SR 151. I'd like to move this forward with amendments. We'll clarify the intent to prioritize safety and saving lives on Hawaii's roads. We'll ask the group to examine Hawaii data on alcohol-related fatalities, injuries, and risk. Include the Office of the Public Defender. Also include the other neighbor island prosecutors. We'll extend an invite to the National Transportation Safety Board, something that still exists. We'll also invite a representative of Hawaii establishments involved with the sale of alcohol, as well as a representative of Hawaii restaurants, and a representative from an organization doing work on reducing alcohol-related fatalities. And then finally, we'll adopt the recommendations from the testimony to add in any other members as may be appropriate. And then finally, we'd like to just recommend the group takes a look also at the data to look at the numbers of alcohol-related fatalities and injuries per year in Hawaii, the numbers of expected fatalities and injuries per year, should the legal limit be reduced to 0.05 based on real-world results experienced in other places. Also take a look at how alcohol and food revenues are affected in other places that have adopted or established a 0.05 threshold, and how much revenue could potentially be expected to be gained or lost here in Hawaii, as well as make recommendations for any mitigating steps to help bars, restaurants, or others adapt that have been successful in other places that have changed their threshold or have a 0.05 threshold, or any other options that might be recommended to address any issues as the group may see fit. And finally, we'll ask for recommendations on how to engage with public awareness and how to phase in any potential recommendations for changes. And I'll just say, I think it's been 5 or 6 years of various bills that have attempted to dive into these issues. So I think getting everybody at the table and seeing if there's something else that we've missed, or to answer questions that have otherwise not been answerable in the course of the legislative process seems appropriate. And hopefully this can move forward and we can have sometime next year as the legislature convenes something that might be passable. So any discussion on this?
Well, maybe we'll pass it this year. Never know. Okay.
Never know. Okay.
Chair's recommendation on SCR 181 and SR 151 is to pass with amendments with 5 members present. Any voting with reservations? Any no votes? Okay, measure is adopted, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. So that's the end of our 3:01 p.m. agenda. I'll just note we have 2 other agendas with deferred measures to vote on. So we'll take us out of our 3:01 and go straight into our 3:02 p.m. agenda. These were measures previously heard in this committee.
Okay, which one?
3:02 p.m.
Okay, great.
We have 3 sets of measures, 3 sets of resolutions up, beginning with SCR 12 and SR 8, recognizing International Dark Sky Week. like to recommend moving these two measures forward with amendments. And we'll add the convening of a task force on light pollution and dark skies, with hopefully some recommendations for ensuring dark skies were and when appropriate, and technical amendments. Is there any discussion on that? If not, Vice Chair, for SCR 12 and SR 8 with amendments.
Okay. Chair's recommendation on SCR 12 and SR 8 is to pass with amendments. All those with 5 members present, any voting with reservations, any no votes. Measure is adopted, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Moving on to SCR 150, requesting the Department of Transportation to convene a working group to develop and recommend federal, state, and county programs subsidize. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. I skipped a set of measures here. We're on SCR 180 and SR 150, requesting the Department of Transportation to submit an annual report to the legislature summarizing specific safety-related information for general aviation and commercial tour operators, and making those available online. I'd like to recommend moving this forward with amendments to address some of the comments that were raised and testimony when these were heard. I'd like to recommend changing and clarifying the scope of the problem and intent to provide residents and visitors with safety and performance-related information to enable informed decision-making. We'll change the title to requesting the Department of Transportation to share information on the safety and performance of commercial tour operators to help residents and visitors make informed decisions. Fourthly, we'll request DOT and HTA, the Hawaii Tourism Authority, to make information available in an easy-to-find and understand format online. We'll ask ask DOT to work with the National Transportation Safety Board to identify relevant safety, performance, and operations criteria, and solicit voluntary responses from commercial tour operators with respect to those criteria. Also, we'll ask them to work with other agencies to collect other relevant publicly available information, and also establish a system of transparency and scoring to provide the public with information on which companies are taking which steps related to safety and other considerations as may be appropriate to provide for safety and best practices to enable residents and visitors to make informed decisions about which companies they would like to fly with. And finally, we'll ask them to report annually to the legislature, to HTA, to the counties, and then make technical amendments. And just for the record here, the idea is we can't compel anything to happen, as I think some of the earlier testimony had said, but in this space where Hawaii's experienced about 50 fatalities over the last couple decades, helicopter crashes and other things, we're trying to create a little bit of transparency here to give companies an opportunity to demonstrate that they're being safe or employing proper safety measures and best practices, and making that information available to visitors who otherwise really have no idea and have a difficult time finding that kind of information, so that they can choose whom to fly with accordingly. So with that, any discussion? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Chair's recommendation on SCR 150 is to pass with amendments with 5 members present. Any voting with reservations? Any no votes? Measure is adopted, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And finally, on this agenda, we're moving on to SCR 150, requesting the Department of Transportation to convene a working group to develop and recommend federal, state, and county programs subsidizing the transport of waterborne cargo. I'd like to recommend moving this forward with amendments, just making technical, non-substantive amendments. If there's no discussion on that, Vice Chair, for the vote on SCR 150.
We just voted for it. SCR 150?
Yes, that was SR 150, this is SCR.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, 180. Chair's recommendation on SCR.
What? 150.
Oh, okay.
That was the.
Okay.
Yeah.
We gotta correct that then.
Okay.
Okay, still with amendments.
Still with amendments.
Okay. Chair's recommendation on SCR 150 is to pass with amendments. Any with 5 members present, any voting with reservations, Any no votes? Measure is adopted, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, so that's the end of our 3:02 PM agenda. We have one more 3:03 PM agenda that we'll go into, which is a set of measures previously heard this morning, SCR 222 and SR 197, urging towing companies to have on-site automated teller machines to ensure accessible payment options for vehicle owners. So for this one, I'd like to recommend moving this forward with amendments. This was a joint with CPN, by the way, who voted that out this morning. So we're going to make the same recommendations, which was to turn the measure into a task force
Okay.
to look at the issues that were raised by this discussion with Office of Consumer Protection as the convener, and a report back to the legislature. If there's no discussion, Vice Chair for the vote with amendments.
Okay, Chair's recommendation on SCR 222 and SR 197 is to pass with amendments with 5 members present. Any voting with reservations? Any no votes? Measure is adopted, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. I'm going to take a quick recess. Thank you. Reconvening the Committee on Transportation and Culture and the Arts on our 3:03 PM agenda. We were just voting on Senate Concurrent Resolution 222 and Senate Resolution 197 regarding towing. To clarify, the recommendations were to pass with amendments, establishing a task force with the Office of Consumer Protection to convene a task force with appropriate stakeholders. And that is it. I need to just say, yeah. That's all we got. We just voted on the measure. So I think we're good.
I think we're good.
Yeah. Okay. And with that, let me just first of all say I don't know that we're going to have any other. Oh, we got GM hearings. Well, in any event, we want to thank the IT folks for putting up with us this whole time, for managing the Zoom and the test fires and everything else, and certainly our staff at our drafting agencies for doing the bulk of the actual work that we otherwise, I think, too often overlook. So we will have, I think, 1 or 2 more hearings, it sounds like, but until then, just wanted to really just send some mahalo and appreciation to everybody who was involved in the process, not sitting at the table here right now. So with that, we are adjourned.
Thank you.